what?
As long as I can have food and my Netflix on hand, right?
That's right. Food and power.
Yeah.
Yeah, electricity helps.
All right, we're here. Maybe a minute early, but take your time, get comfortable. I don't plan on using anything special, but at home, if you want to have your blankets ready, do, and get comfortable how you're sitting. So if you want to sit in a chair, do. I'm going to start on the floor today, but you can do everything from the chair, starting out here to warm up. So, and if you're on the floor and you're cross-legged, but your hips or your knees feel a little bit iffy, putting blocks underneath the outside of your legs here a little bit can be helpful. So just really be mindful. If you're sitting cross-legged, get yourself into feeling a little bit of the outside edges of your feet into the floor. And then lengthen up through the top of your head. And as you close your eyes, let your hands come behind you and let your right hand encircle your left wrist. So whatever you need to do that, elbows can get a lot more bent, whatever feels really good, so that you don't feel discomfort in your shoulders. And if you do, don't do this, right? Let's see if you can just lengthen up through the crown of your head. Feel your sitting bones reaching down. And then start to feel your breath coming into your belly, into your ribs, maybe all the way up into your chest, into that third part. And as you exhale, let the breath come out of your chest, and then your ribs, and then your belly. Now, if you can, let your hands go so that you can just switch. So your left hand encircles your right wrist here for a second. And again, come right back to your breaths. Let yourself be easy in how you have your hands back there. If you're able to come into those three-part breaths, then we'll release our arms and let your hands come on out beside you, really lengthening up here now through the top of your head. And on the next inhale, we'll rise the arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down through the midline to be in front of our chest. And then we'll reverse to inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, opening the arms on back out and down. And now from here, just come a little bit forward and back with your breath. So keeping the spine nice and long. Letting the breath just easily start to move you forward and back. Exhaling your way forward. And inhaling your way back. And the next time that you end up sitting up nice and tall, let yourself stay there. Let your arms release on out beside you again. We'll inhale here at center. And on the exhale, let's twist to our right. Bring your left hand around, maybe to the midline or maybe all the way over to your right knee. And just be mindful there. Feel the chin parallel to the floor. Find that sense of length in the back of your neck and the back of your throat. One more inhale. And let your exhale draw you all the way back into center. Once you're at center, take a nice inhale here. And then as you exhale, draw your navel towards your spine. So round into your back, like you're doing a seated cat pose, really. Let your chin come down towards your chest. And then on your next inhale, send your sits bones down. Roll your way on back up through your spine. Inhaling here at the top. And on the exhale, we're going to twist to the other direction. So to your left, right hand, again, can be at the midline or onto your left knee. And just be mindful of how your neck feels. You can look as far around as you want to or back behind yourself. Feel your right sitting bone drawing down towards the ground or the chair if you're sitting in a chair. One more inhale. And let your exhale again draw you back on around into center. Inhaling here into the length of your spine. And on the exhale, draw your navel towards your spine again. So curl your tailbone forward, your sit bones. Let yourself round here. And on your next inhale, send your sits bones down and roll back up through your spine again. Good. And now we're going to stretch our legs out. Remember the leg you have in front. If you're cross-legged, let your legs stretch out in front of you. Move through your feet and your ankles a little bit. Same thing if you're in your chair. Your legs can be long or you can have your knees bent. Shake out just a little bit. And let's come into a little seated forward bend here. So think about coming forward with a long back. Just waking up the backs of the legs. If you're in your chair, you're welcome to separate your feet farther and let yourself come farther forward if you choose. Let it feel really good. Feel the backs of the legs if you're on the floor. Also feel that sense of length in your spine. Good. One more breath here. And then we'll slowly make our way back up to sitting. And we are going to recross to have the other leg in front if you were cross-legged on the floor. Get your blocks if you need them. Take your time. And let's move forward and back with our breath from here. Let your exhales bring you forward and your inhales bring you back upright. So again, just allowing that easy movement with your breath. The length of the spine. Think of your back of your head staying in line with your spine so you don't send your chin forward and up, right? There's that length. So finish off the one you were on so you can come back up to sitting from there. And we'll release our arms on out beside us, inhaling here. And on the exhale, twist to your left this time. Again, right hand can come around to your left knee or to the midline. Lengthen up. Draw your right sit bone down. Good. One more inhale. And then unwind back into center. And from here, bring your left arm over your right. Give yourself a hug. Let your elbows soften down. And now we're going to do that same inhaling into the long spine. And on the exhale, curl the tailbone forward and round a little bit here with your arms crossed. And then inhale and rise on back up, rolling back up through your spine. And unfold your arms on down beside you. Take a nice inhale here. And on the exhale, we'll twist to our right. So bringing left hand again towards that right knee or to the midline. Lengthen up. Far back as you want to look with your head, but just be mindful, let your neck feel good. Good. One more inhale. And as you exhale, use your belly. Come on back around into center. Bring your right arm over your left to give yourself a hug this time. Elbows melt down and inhale. And on the exhale, draw your navel towards your spine. Feel your tailbone curl forward. Let yourself round back into the spine here. And on your next inhale, roll back up. Let your head be the last thing that comes right back up. And then we'll let our arms come on down beside us again. Float your hands up a little bit and circle through your hands. Let your hands circle in one direction. And then stop and go the other. And then shake your hands out. See if you can bring your hands forward though. And now send your fingertips down towards the ground. So your really having your palms face front here. And then if you're on the floor, if you can come forward a little bit and put your fingertips, or some part of your fingertips, maybe not all of them, on the floor. You're waking up the wrist. You can even go down to your thumbs if possible. If you're sitting in your chair, you can always put your fingertips on your knees, right above your knees, right? Just to open up the wrists a little bit. Don't force it. And then we'll release and come on back up. Shake your hands out a little bit and open and close your fingers. We're coming around towards our hands and knees. You know, if you don't want to be on your hands and knees, don't be. Grab a blanket to put underneath your knees if that's better. If you feel really iffy for your wrists, try coming down to your forearms, either on a chair or blocks or all the way down to the floor, because you can't do cat-cow without having all that pressure into your hands. So start to move through your cat-cow, and if you feel like, my hands don't feel good the way they are, then switch. If you feel kind of like you want to try something new too, you can change and be on your forearms, see how that feels. But just take your time. Let that flowing motion happen. Feeling the tailbone initiate. Imagine your spine is like a string of pearls, really. It's one pearl at a time that comes into each of these poses. Finish off the one you're on. And then we'll make our way to a more neutral spine here. And let's bring our left foot forward to come into lunge here. So you know, if you'd like to have blocks underneath your hands, you get your blocks, bringing that left foot forward and coming up into your lunge. Be whatever height you like to be. You can be on the seat of the chair, you can be on blocks any height, or the floor if you'd rather. And draw your shoulders away from your ears. Let yourself, maybe see if you can either come to fists on your hands or fingertips, so you have a little less weight into your hands than if you're flat on your hands on the blocks or the chair. And we are going to switch to the other leg. So however you need to do that. Coming into that right foot forward, left leg back. Feel the feet in the floor. Press the feet a little away from each other as you imagine you're trying to lengthen your mat with your feet. Good. And we're going to switch again. So take your time, get really comfortable in your lunge here. Think about being on very, very narrow railroad tracks. And we're going to add a little twist. So keeping the right hand grounded, left hand to the left hip, we'll roll that left shoulder up. Let yourself just really be mindful of being as even as you can in your hips. Try not to sink down into that right side. Zip up your belly. And then we'll bring that hand on back down, and we're going to switch legs again. So coming into the right foot forward again. Feel the feet in the mat, press them away from each other like you're trying to lengthen your mat. And then keeping the left hand grounded, we'll bring our right hand to our right hip. Again, trying not to sink on that left side. Lengthen out through the top of your head. Reach into your inner left heel back there. Good, and then we'll bring our hand on back down. We're going to step forward and make our way into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. You know, whatever support you need. Hands on chair, blocks, elbows above your knees. And see if you can just walk a little bit. Bend one knee at a time. Ease your way from one long leg, switching to the other. Weight will shift a little bit into that outer hip of that long leg. And then come on back into center. Let your toes float up. Find the four corners of the feet into the floor there. Inner and outer heel, base of the big toe mound, the little toe mound. Release your toes on back down to the floor. And then just be with your own breath now. Accepting those breaths fully and deeply, all the way in and all the way out. So be really mindful of feeling your breath. Actually physically move your body. Physically feel the ribs expanding. Good. So one more breath here. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. We're going to bend our knees and rise up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Coming into mountain pose. So adjust however you need. If you need to shift or walk around in place a little bit just to get yourself really mindful of feeling as equal as you can between your feet. And then try looking down at your feet and lift your toes up. Really find those four corners of the feet. Make sure either foot is not rolling outward or inward, right? You want to find that balance, if you can, of the four corners into the floor. And then try, if you can, to lower just your big toes down to the floor. See what your fingers do when you do that. And then lift them back up. And then try to get your pinky toes, just the pinky toes, down to the floor. And that in itself is a trick, if possible. Bring them all back up. And now, see if you can do the big toes again, and then the little toes, but keep all the middle toes up, which for most of us is really hard. And for me, like more than hard, it just doesn't work, but you can try. And then bring all the toes back up. It's just a brain thing here. Now try to spread your toes out again. Try to make space between every toe. And then slowly lower the toes on back down. Release your arms out beside you. Float them a little bit away from you. Turn your palms forward. Find that real ease here. Imagine being balanced between the front and the back of your body, the right and the left sides of your body. And then on your exhale, bend your elbows and let your hands come right to meet there in front of your heart. Spread your fingers just a little bit. It's not tension in the hands, but there is a sense of connection there. Almost like you've plugged into a socket that completes a circuit, really. And then we'll unfold our arms right back down beside us. And inhale both arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bend our knees and come forward into our standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find that really long back. And we'll step the right foot back and come into lunge. Press the feet away from each other. Draw your shoulders down. Inhale. And exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Your choice of whether your hands are on blocks or a chair or down onto the floor. Reach back through your tailbone and your sitting bones. Walk a little bit if you want to, if that helps you really adjust. Good. And on the next inhale, we'll come out towards a plank. It is up to you whether you go onto your forearms. You can go all the way to knees to the floor too and do a half plank. Take your time. If you like bending your elbows a little bit, you might want to bend your elbows and stay just with just a little tiny bend in your elbows, just to activate things into your biceps and your shoulders. And then we're going to make our way back into down dog. Remember, as you move from plank to dog, if you need to move your feet a little bit, do it. Getting into that angle where you're okay to be in your shoulders. And we'll bring our right foot forward from here to find lunge. And if you need to put your left knee down in order to get there, do. And we'll come all the way back into standing forward bend. Right to your breaths. Full deep breaths. Let your head release if you can. So it hangs heavy unless it bothers your back. And then we'll let our hands come up to our hips. Bend our knees. We're going to rise up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's inhale our hands up through the midline. And then bend your elbows. Let your hands come kind of to the back of the head, the top of the back of your head a little bit. And just feel the head pressing gently into your hands, whether you have your hands all the way together or just tips of the fingers and thumbs touching. And then see if you can lift your elbows up a tiny little bit. Feel the engagement of the belly. Now, make sure you're not curling your tailbone forward. It's a tiny movement. Just be sure you're not tucking forward with the tailbone, but you're reaching the tailbone down like it's reaching towards the back of your heels a little bit. One more inhale. On the exhale, come up with the arms, fold forward into your standing forward bend. And let your next inhale help you really lengthen your spine. So use your hands a little bit for support here. Try your legs, your shins, or your thighs, or maybe your blocks or your chair. But let yourself focus on pressing your feet away from each other, like you're trying to make your mat wider with your feet. Knees can be bent, so you're very engaged into the legs, into the hips, into the outer legs. One more breath. And we'll step the left foot back and come into lunge here. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Again, if you have your hands in the chair, remember your heels will probably be on the floor. Maybe the same thing if your hands are up on blocks. And if the blocks are tippy, be really mindful. Highest height can be tippy. So be careful, but feel your elbows hug towards each other. Engage that really sense of letting your heart melt a little bit. So you feel almost like you're releasing down a little bit with your heart. Feeling that space between the shoulder blades. And then we'll come on out towards that plank again, whether it's a forearm plank, whether you bring yourself down with your knees. Take your time. You can bend your elbows, of course, if you like again. Come into a little bit of a push-up. And then we'll make our way back again into down dog. And our left foot will come forward to come into lunge here. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart, parallel. Find those four corners. If it helps you to float your toes up for a second, do. Some of you might even want to reach down and give your toes a little massage, or kind of keep them warm a little bit with your hands, right? Just be mindful. Full, deep, easy breaths. Softness through your face and your jaw. And then we'll let our hands come on back up to our hips. Bend our knees, rising on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. From here, let's inhale our right arm all the way up. Bend your elbow here. Let yourself just enjoy finding your tricep. If your left arm wants to come up and over, you can bring your hand all the way, arm over the top, and your hand to your elbow if you want. One more breath there. And then we'll lower both arms back down beside us. And we're going to inhale the left arm all the way out and up. And again, bend that elbow. Again, it is up to you whether you want to add the right arm over the top to get your elbow or not. Take your time. Feel the tailbone still dropping down. Remember, don't want to curl your tailbone forward. Good. Now this time, we're going to stretch both arms up overhead and let the shoulders lift up for a second. Feel how that feels. And then draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Bend your elbows and put your hands wherever they can come to. Maybe on your upper back. Maybe more to the back of your head, or maybe to the back of your neck. See if you can look up just a little bit from here without curling your tailbone forward again. One more inhale. And on the exhale, bend your elbows back down beside you. We're going to come on forward into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale lengthen out your spine. And we're going to walk into down dog from here. So you let your hands be where you like for your dog. Come on back into dog. Move if you need. Walk or wag your tail. Let yourself get adjusted. And on the next inhale, we'll come on out to plank. It is totally optional to add a back bend here. So you can come down to the floor, come on into a Sphinx pose on your forearms. You can come into a little cobra or an up dog or no back bend at all. And then we'll make our way back again into down dog. Take your time, walk or move around if you need. And we're going to do that same thing. We'll come on out into plank. Again, if you want to do a back bend, you can. It is not necessary. You can come into an up dog or come down and come into a cobra or a Sphinx. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. And let's bring our right foot forward. Define lunge here. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Feet right under us. Now, if you're able to bring your hands onto your low back and clasp your hands together, do. And you know, if that's too much for your back, don't do it. And then just breathe. Nice, easy, even as you can breaths. So think about your inhales and your exhales being equally important. And if your arms will come at all off your back now, and you have your hands back there, go right ahead. Let the arms come off the back as far as feels good for your shoulders. Good, and then we'll bring the hands on back down to the hips, bend our knees. We're going to rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. And let your chin come down towards your chest. Release your head forward here. Focus on your hands for a second. Really feel the hands connected. You can kind of look right between your thumbs and your pointer fingers down there towards your palms. And then see if you can focus to your feet now. And you might have to readjust once you do that. And the hands are just kind of there in the middle, but you can see your feet maybe on either side of your hands. And then when you inhale the next time, rise your head on back up, coming into mountain pose here. Feel that ease of balance between the front and the back of your body, the right and the left sides of your body. And then we'll go ahead and release our arms right on down beside us and shake out a little bit. Swing your arms around if you need to. And we're going to come into some warriors. So if you're using your chair, you might want to have the back of it turned to face you. And let's have our blocks handy, those of us who don't have a chair or who do, either way. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into warrior two first. So we'll line up our heels, and so that line forward from the back heel, the front heel's about in the same line. How long of a stance you take is immaterial. Just make sure that front knee is bent no farther forward than your ankle. And then from here, rise your right arm up overhead. Let your gaze just come kind of a little diagonally here. You got your left hand just resting on the top of your thigh. See if you can lift your left heel up a little bit. You really feel that outer left hip dropping down. And then lower the heel down. And as you lower that right arm behind you, turn to look at it. So you're looking back as the palm turns down, looking back over that right hand. And then slowly start to bring your head back around. We're going to start to rise that left arm up. And we'll have our gaze now right out over the top of our left hand. Imagine you're shooting sparks of energy out through your fingertips. Shoulders are soft. Feet are gently pressing away from each other. Good, and then we'll turn that left palm up. We're going to inhale, reach up towards the sky with that left hand. You can reach back behind yourself if you'd like in reverse warrior. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come into our side angle. So whether it's your left hand or forearm that come onto your thigh, totally up to you. You can also use your chair. You can put your hand on your chair. You can have your hand on your left thigh. Let yourself find that length through both sides of the body. Now, this upper arm, totally up to you. You know that right hand can stay down on your hip if your shoulder bothers you. Good. We're going to come on back into warrior two from here. Press the feet away from each other as you come. Soften the shoulders down. Nice. Let's lower our hands down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel. So if you need to adjust how far apart your feet are for your wide-legged forward bend, do. And then come on forward. This pose is called Prasarita Padottanasana. So it's a very pretty name. Go ahead and bend a knee at a time if you'd like, and take your time to get yourself adjusted and how far apart you want your feet. And then come back into being really even between your feet. Doesn't matter whether your knees are bent or straight. And whether your hands are on blocks or the floor, walk your hands way forward, almost like you're doing a down dog. Let your heart melt down a little towards the ground, so your chest melts down. Feel that sense of release between the shoulder blades on your back. And now this is totally optional. If you can, shift on forward like you're coming out to a plank. You don't have to go very far in this. You may decide it feels kind of good to come all the way out like you're doing a plank. You might even want to do a little push-up when you get out there. And then we'll come on back again and let yourself shift your hips back. And from here, let's walk our hands over to the right or shift your blocks to the right. You might want to walk all the way to the outside edge of your right foot, or you may want to just shift your blocks a little bit. And then we'll come on back through center and we're going to go to the left. So again, how far you go, it doesn't matter. Blocks can be under your hands. You just shift a little to the left. You can walk towards your foot. And then we'll come back into center again. And now do what you need to do to adjust where you know you can stay in this pose for a few breaths comfortably, right? That means really being comfortable so that you're not fighting yourself in the pose. All you're doing is getting really as released as you can be in your upper body and being with your own breath. So just watching your breath. And letting the pose do the work for you. You just receive those full deep breaths in and out. On your next exhale, imagine just letting your face totally soften. And as we start to rise up, you make whatever adjustment you need before you come on up, bringing yourself into feet coming together however you want. You can jump or walk them together, right? Let yourself take your time. Move through your feet and your ankles too if you need to before we do the other side. It'll be the left foot that steps back now. Again, whether your feet are 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, or more apart, you want to just get that alignment of your heels and that alignment of that front knee. And now let your right hand rest there on your thigh. Rise your left arm up overhead. Turn the palm in like you're turning it towards the midline of your body there. And now lift the right heel up just a little bit. Feel that outer left hip dropping down. So the knee really lines up naturally when you lift your heel up. And then bring your heel back down. Lowering the left arm down, turning back now to look right out over the top of that left hand. That feels kind of good in the neck, doesn't it? Now we're going to start to slowly turn back, but the right hand is going to start to rise up with us. Try to get there right at the same time with your hand there and your gaze over the top of your hand. Feel the feet and the floor equally. Find that power and strength of your warrior two. And we'll turn the right palm up. We're going to inhale the right arm up. Now again, left hand can give you a little support. You can go as far back as you want. Full breath into the right side. And on your exhale, come into that side angle. Again, you can put your hand on your chair. You can put your right hand on your thigh as you lean out over that bent leg. Or you can go down onto your forearm. Adding that top arm is totally optional. So feel free, if you'd rather, just to let the hand stay down on your hip. Feel the length through both sides of the body. And again, imagine that outer right hip dropping down, maybe even drawing back a little bit. We're going to come on back into Warrior Two. Press the feet away from each other. Feel that all the way up into your hips. And then we'll bring our hands on down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel. Now before you come forward, bring your hands behind you. Clasp your hands back there. And then bend your knees and come on forward. Now you may not want to go farther than parallel to the floor, like a tabletop, right? So your back is really long. And if you get there and it bothers your shoulders, disconnect your hands if you need to. Put your elbows above your knees if you'd rather. But then if you'd rather keep going, you can keep going if you're okay to do that. And maybe even bring your arms off your back like we did in our forward bend earlier, if that feels good. So be mindful. Sometimes it's easier when your legs are farther apart to do this pose. With the arms, I mean back like this. So one more breath. And then bring your hands on back down. Let your hands come to blocks or the floor. And bend your knees a little bit. Shift a little side to side. You might even want to turn your toes out a little bit and play with that bending knee one at a time that way to get a little differently into the inside of the legs. Just be mindful. Let it feel good. And when you do get ready again to set up to be in the pose, feet are attempting to be parallel again, and you can decide if you want to grab some blocks. Remember, blocks can go lots of places, under your hands or your forearms or your head. So you want to get to a place where it feels really easy for you. And again, you're just watching your breath. Now if you can, see if you can do this little mantra where when you inhale, you think the word so. And when you exhale, you think the word hum. And both of those kind of resonate. Inhaling so and exhaling hum. Translating to mean I am that, or that I am. And then let yourself slowly now begin to rise up, however it feels best for you to do that. So that when you come up, you feel okay to be up there again, not dizzy. And if you are, grab onto something and walk around a little bit if you can. And we're going to come into Warrior One this time. If you have your chair, and you need to have the chair turned so you can hold on to the back of it, do. If not, turn it this way. And everybody else have your blocks handy. And we'll step towards the front of our mat. We're going to bring our right foot back and come into Warrior One, letting our shoulders square off towards the front corners of the mat here. And in fact, bring your hands down forward a little bit. Turn your palms forward and imagine you're kind of reaching down towards the corners of your mat with your hands, right? But then, when you rise your head on up, imagine your sternum coming forward a little bit. Feel your shoulders over your hips. Feel very balanced between your feet. As you inhale and start to rise the arms up higher, we are all different. Turn the palms towards each other as you get up higher. And of course, you can have the arms stay more down, right? Those of you who like to bring your gaze up, feel that lift at the base of the shoulder blades do. Coming into your Warrior One. Feel the feet still equal in the floor, energy out through your fingertips. One more breath. And then we'll lower our arms on down. We're going to straighten that front knee out. Get your hips around square, even if that means adjusting that back foot. And start to come forward, bringing the hands down for your pyramid when you're ready, right? You can have your hands back for a little bit if you want, or you can right away put your hands down to a chair seat or down onto the blocks, any height you want to be. And once you get your hands down, if you need to adjust your stance, do. Feel your thighs lifting upward. You know you can stay lengthened out Your torso lengthened over that inner left leg, or you can fold over it if that feels good. It's up to you. And now come on back parallel to the floor. Keep your right hand grounded. We're going to bring our left hand to our left hip. And come on up into a little twist here. Hand coming onto the low back. Let yourself lengthen out through the top of your head. Good, and then we'll bring that left hand on back down. Bend your left knee. Let yourself step forward and get your feet right under you. Bend your knees pretty deeply. Think about your belly coming onto your thighs. Let your head hang if you can. And then press equally into your feet. Bring your hands to your hips. We're going to come on up and inhale the arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. So find your mountain pose for a couple of breaths. If you're swaying around, that's fine. Let it feel good and let the body adjust its way, really. Trust that your body really wants to be in alignment, which it does. Just sometimes we have habits that make it a little harder to get there. So shake out a little bit, move around. We're going to do the other side. All right, so we're going to step forward again. The left foot steps back this time. This warrior one, if you need to have your stance a little bit wider, do, okay? Like you're on very narrow railroad tracks. And then again, look down towards the front corners of your mat. Bring your hands forward, kind of like you're reaching for those corners of the mat, palms up. And then let your gaze then just come on forward. So you feel very open here, very balanced. And as you start to ease your arms up higher and higher, you can again turn the palms towards each other as they get up overhead, or you can keep your arms forward, palms up, right? Depends on your shoulders. If you feel that lift, feels wonderful to look up a little bit and feel that lift at the base of your shoulder blades do. Feet equal in the floor. Arches lifting up. One more breath. And then we'll lower our arms on down. We're straightening that front knee out. So again, if it feels wrong a little bit, not quite square, shift around to get your back foot where you want it, and then start to ease your way forward. Hands can stay back behind you a little bit. You can decide you want to put your hands down right away. They can come to a chair seat. They can come to blocks. And then sometimes once you get your hands down, that's when you really want to readjust your stance. You feel even like, I feel still a little cockeyed. So get that angle you want with that back foot. Feel the back heel in the floor. If you feel like folding over the leg, by all means do. Now, if you're folded, come back more parallel to the floor here now. We're going to add that twist, revolve triangle, bringing the right hand up to your right hip and drawing that shoulder up, letting yourself come into that twist in the middle of the back. So you're trying to stay as level as you can back there in your low back. Lengthen out through the top of your head. Let the legs open up a little deeper. One more breath. And then we'll bring that right hand back down. Bend the front knee a little bit so you can again step forward to get your feet right underneath you. And then from here, walk a little bit. Let yourself just bend one knee, but keep your knees fairly bent. So it's kind of like you just are keeping the knees really soft, but you just sort of walking a little quickly. Like you're just going one heel down, the other heel down, one heel down, so it feels good. And then come on back, bring both your heels down, let your knees bend if you need. Take a couple of breaths in your Uttanasana, your standing forward bend, however you choose. Good. And then we'll bring our hands on up to our hips. We're going to bend our knees and come on up to standing. And inhale our arms out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So find your mountain pose for a second here. Again, if you move around a little bit, it's fine, whether your eyes are opened or closed. Feel that energy flowing through the body now. Nice and warm, and then release your arms on down and shake out a little bit. We're going to bring our mats into a wall. So take your time. Let your mats come into a wall, short edge of the mat to the wall. And then we have room in here. If anybody needs to step away, we're going to do a little half moon with our back against the wall. You guys have plenty of room. You have plenty of room. I think you two do too. So let's take a block and turn with our right shoulder to the wall and look at your right foot for a second now. Your right foot is, depending on you and how you're built, how far you are away from the wall, might be 4 to 6 inches. You want to get your foot pretty parallel to the wall. And then bring your right hand down to the block highest height, right under your shoulder here. Let your left leg just automatically lift up. That's what it wants to do, right? And then you can think about that left leg getting about parallel to the floor. Here you are, half moon. Think of the right side of the body. So you can feel your right hip into the wall. You want to be close enough to feel like it's easy to do that. And your right shoulder might or might not go to the wall, right? And then as you turn to look out, think of lifting your left arm straight up from your shoulder. Feel the back of your hand gently coming into the wall and your left heel gently coming into the wall. Now the left toes are just barely facing down. You can release here, you can look forward, you can look down if it bothers your neck to look out. Or you might even want to turn to look up towards the ceiling. So one more breath here. Nice. Come up out of it. Got to use your belly a little bit to bring yourself on up. And we're going to go to the other side. So again, be mindful. Once you get your foot there underneath your left leg, how far away you are from the wall. Once you put your hand down on that block, you might have to adjust it a little bit. Like if you can't comfortably get the left hip coming into the wall there, right? So, and you got to get the left hand in a place where you feel really good to be. You can be on your fist or your fingertips. Rising that right arm up is up to you if your shoulder lets you, right? It's fine to just keep your hand down. This pose is awesome. Lengthening the spine. Head can stay where you look down or forward or even up. Feel the flexion of that right foot. But think, you don't want your toes to go up. You want to think about your toes slightly angling down. You're not trying to over-open here in your hip. So one more breath. Nice. Now to come out of it again, you'll have to bend your knee. You can use the wall to help you. Lean back in it a little bit. Step your feet forward here at the wall. Bend your knees, and how far you go is up to you. You can go a little bit. You can go down to where your thighs are parallel to the floor. You just want to make sure your knees don't go out beyond your toes. For a second, turn your palms forward. Press the backs of your hands into the wall. And then from there, see if you can shift your hips just a little bit forward off the wall. And then let them come back into the wall. All right, so you're not really going into a deep back bend, but if you bring your hips a little away from the wall, press into the backs of the shoulders a little bit, almost like you're doing a little bridge pose, you know what I mean? So you kind of bring your hips forward, you press into the shoulders, kind of draw your shoulder blades together a little bit, and then send the hips back again. And now from here, bring your arms on down, come on forward. You may want to rest hands or forearms above your knees, or you may want to fold all the way forward over your legs. So if you want to fold forward over your legs, you can even straighten them out. You've got your hips back into the wall. So you do what you want there. Don't overdo. Take your time. Nice. And now from here, we're going to come back up, elbows above the knees. Get your feet pretty parallel and pretty close together. Not all the way touching, but, you know, not more than like 4 inches, apart with your feet. And we're going to twist, bringing either left elbow onto the right knee, just letting our right hand come to our hip. Or if you want to go lower, you can bring your hands into prayer hands, really sending that left sitting bone towards the wall. Knees are equally bent. You don't have to go that deep. You can stay up higher. And then come on back into center, elbows above the knees. Take a breath there. And then as you twist the other way, again, you can just bring your right hand over or forearm over across to the outside of the knee. You can go elbow, hands to prayer if you choose. Press that right sitting bone in the wall. Feel that twist there. Feel the legs equal, even if you need to look at your knees and make sure you're not bending one knee more than the other. And then we'll come on back. And from here, bring your hands to your thighs, shift your way back, knees are still bent up to the wall. And then walk your feet closer so that maybe your heels are 6 to 12 inches, 10 inches from the wall. And we're going to send our hips a little forward here, all right? So this is a little bit of a back bend. If you can allow your arms to hang, you'll feel it. There's a lift up through here, so the lift through the front of the hips. Belly is engaged, tailbone's dropping down. So you don't want to feel any compression in your low back. Now some of you might want to bring your arms up overhead. If you choose, you can even walk your feet out farther and send more the back of the top of the head or the back of the head into the wall. That's up to you. But remember, it is a sense of lengthening in the low back. You're not sinking into your low back. So there's no sense of discomfort at all. Good. And now we're going to come all the way up, shift your hips back to the wall again, and bend your knees for a second for a little bit of relief there. And we are from here going to come down to sit on our mats. So if you want to sit on a blanket, grab a blanket. We're going to come into Baddha Konasana at first with the soles of our feet together like this, right? So you may decide sitting on a blanket's a good thing. You may even decide having blocks underneath the outside of your legs is a good thing. Especially if in this pose you feel really grippy in your hips, right? So you can let your feet come as far away from you. This space in here can be more like a diamond shape. You can have your heels in closer towards you if you feel like that feels good to you. But make sure you don't hold and reach onto your feet like this and pull the feet toes up, right? Either let yourself hold your ankles or your shins or wherever feels good, where you can really lengthen up, but you're not putting your feet into that position. Good, and imagine, if you can, that the knees are just gently reaching away from the midline. Not pressing down, but reaching away. So you're thinking of really letting your inner thighs get more long. And you can come a little bit forward here if you want or not. It really depends on how you're built, if that coming forward, that long back is even possible. So if it feels good, let yourself come forward, and if not, don't. We're going to rise to come on back up. Now, if you can do this, lean back and pick your feet up. So then you're not leaning back far, and you certainly don't want to do this. You don't want to tuck and let your tailbone curl forward. You want to keep that long back. And then you can decide, do you want to play with this, right? You can either hold onto your feet and hold like onto the inside or the outside of your foot, or hold your big toe if you want, and think about one leg coming out long. You know, it doesn't have to go all the way, but you can go as far as you want. And then you can come on back in with that foot, and then you can think about the other one, which is really hard to do the one leg at a time. It's actually easier both legs do the same, right? And then you can come on back in, and you can decide, well, do I want to do more? Do I even want to do both? No, maybe not. And if you're going to roll backwards, oh my gosh, be careful, because if you bang your head in the wall, it hurts. So Be where you can. Feeling that belly working. Good. And then we'll come on back down. Nice. And let's just stretch our legs out for a second. Out a little bit wide, not huge wide, but and let your feet circle around a little bit. Move back and forth a little bit with your legs. And we're going to come onto our backs, but before you go down, have your blocks handy right there by you, okay? And we'll come on down onto our backs on the floor. Bring your right knee into your chest for a second and extend your left leg long. And then see if you can hold on behind your right thigh and stretch the leg up a little bit longer, all right? Now you can reach for your foot, your ankle, if you want, your calf. Let the leg be drawn a little closer to you. Just open the back of the leg a little bit there. And then bend the knee fully again. Bring yourself back into knee to the chest. Press the leg gently into your hands. And then we'll bring the left knee in and let's extend the right leg down long on the floor. Flex through both your feet. Let yourself enjoy there. Switch to hold the back of your left thigh. Extend the left leg up. Now again, you may not get the leg totally straight, but you still might want to pull the thigh in towards you. Or you may feel fine to stretch your leg out long and let yourself feel the leg coming in towards you as much as feels good. Good, and then we'll bend that left knee again. Bring the knee back in, holding on either behind your thigh or on your shin. And then let the right leg come in too. Right knee come in. Let the knees open a little bit to the sides and then roll side to side. Just to let your back feel better. You can do happy baby if it's even better, right? Just take your time. Find what feels like a release for your hips, your back. So that we can come back into center and put our feet back down to the floor and get ourselves a block in our hands. And we're going to lift our hips up and come into supported bridge on the lowest height of that block. Now, remember, when you're in a supported bridge, and if this really bothers your back, don't do it. You can do a blanket instead so you're not so high and it's softer. But if you can do the lowest height, just make sure you're not hanging off the block, right? You don't want the block into the middle of the back with your hips totally hanging down in space. But then, when you do get yourself sacrum on the block there, get your feet into like you're doing a bridge pose at first, and imagine for a second that you're drawing your tailbone down just a little bit. You have that natural curve in your low back. Not huge. Good, and then bring your arms down onto the floor beside, so they're nice and long and palms are facing down. Roll your shoulders under even more. And then press into the backs of the arms, lift up so you feel your quads engaged. There's your quads. Again, you want to feel it in your back. Your quads are definitely tight here. Try to feel this sense of lengthening. Try not to overly grip your buttocks, right? Yes, you're using your buttocks, but you don't want it to be like really gripped. You want to feel length almost. And then slowly come back down to the block. See if you can stretch your right leg long now. Keep the heel on the floor. Have the heel on the floor. And let the toes face up and feel the openness in the front of your right hip there. And you can always press down a little bit into the left foot if you feel too much going on at all in your back, right? Or in that front of the right hip. Now bring the right foot back to the floor so that you bend both knees equally again. And now stretch the left leg right down long under you. You're on the heel, the toes and the knees are facing up. You can press into the right foot a little bit, engage your belly, but feel that nice openness for the front of the left hip. Good. And then bring the left foot on back in. Again, get your feet set up for bridge. Bring your arms down alongside you. As you press into the arms, just feel yourself float up as you feel the thighs engage. So one more breath here. Feel the back of your head gently coming into the floor.
You can go up as high as you want, you know that. And then we're going to release back down to the block. Now, if you can, see if you can lift your right leg up in the air and then your left leg up in the air. Knees can be bent. Send your tailbone down a little bit. And now engage your belly and start to let your right leg come down. It can be bent or straight so that it starts to lower down right underneath you. Now you're going to feel that you got to really start to use your belly and your low back, right? There's your core. Rise it back up when you've had enough. So try the other leg. You exhale the leg down. Now how far you go is up to you, just making sure that you stay very stable in the pelvis. And when you're ready, you just rise it back up. Now you can do this with really bent legs, like you're stair walking, you know, where you put one foot down towards the floor almost and bring it back up. That changes too, a little bit about how that feels in the core, right? Or you can do it with the leg long, the ones we first did. You can do a little bit of both, or you can say, I'm not doing any more of either of those, and you can stop. So if you want to do a little bit of ab and core work here, and it is not just the belly working, you can feel how you have to really work in your low back. And when you have had entirely enough of this, bring yourself back into feet on the floor, and let's lift our hips up and take that block out from underneath us and come back down onto the floor. Once you're there, bring your right knee in and then your left knee in, and then let your knees open to the side, and see if you can bring your hands over to hold on to either your shins or your ankles, or maybe you want to wrap your hands around your feet in Baddha Konasana, like we were sitting in Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet towards each other. And then just release there. Let the back, the hips, the low back release. And now there might be any number of things right now that your body is kind of feeling like doing. So could you just let yourself do whatever feels good? If you need to stretch everything out, if you need to do another pose or another movement, and that could be anything, you know, you might want to come back into a bridge pose without that block. You may have had entirely enough of that, or a twist, you know. Any movement, any pose does not have to be a traditional yoga pose. Really take your time now, okay? So don't rush. I will start to walk around. I'm getting some lights, and then I'll start to walk around so that if anybody needs some support, I can bring it here at the studio. If you're home, there are lots of things you can do. You can roll up blankets to put under your knees, or use a pillow, especially if you have a bolster, of course, it's nice. But if you don't, you can use other things. You can even use your blocks underneath your knees. And you can also use a little bit of a blanket under your head if you feel at all like you're kind of having your chin jut up a little bit, right? Which shortens the back of your neck. You want to have that length and that ease. And the other thing, if you're home, you can also, or here of course, you can always lie with your legs up the wall if that feels good, to get your feet up above your heart. Letting the legs be up the wall. You can be right up close to the wall or a little bit away. time. Let yourself get comfortable. Enjoy feeling the ground underneath you, supporting you. And if your your arms or your legs need to move to a little bit different place, do. There's no right or wrong. Just feel yourself accepting your breaths now. And if there is any mantra or words or even counting your breath, anything that helps you refocus back to your breath, let yourself do that. You can think a word when you inhale, another when you exhale, or you can count 1 as you inhale, 2 as you exhale, and keep on. And when your mind wanders off, sometimes it's easier to have something like that to bring your awareness back. And just give your mind and your body these few minutes to have time to benefit from all you just did. It's really kind of like magic when you give it a chance to work. Just get out of your own way and allow yourself to completely and fully relax.
starting to move a little bit physically, coming up through your extremities when you're ready. And take your time, really let yourself move the way that feels good as you come back into feeling physical again. Allow the ground to support you a little bit longer if you can. And be happy gravity's holding you down there. You know to take your time to roll to either your right or your left side if you're comfortable, to stay there for a little bit, and that helps you adjust. You can stay in that soft fetal position and maybe even use your arm as a pillow if you don't have a blanket there, so that you can rest comfortably on your side. But just be mindful so that when you do feel like you're ready to rise up, you can stay soft and relaxed feeling, so your eyes stay closed too if you can, so that when you do come up to sitting, it feels like the next natural thing to do. Again, to be with your head above your heart. Get comfortable for your hips, however you need to sit. Feel that sense of your sitting bones drawing downward and the crown of your head reaching upward. And on your next exhale, let your hands come to meet there in front of your chest. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
And hopefully we'll see each other before too many days go by.